Final regular season win prediction for Syracuse football. Let's break it all down.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. We are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you all a very simple question as we are 8 days away from the start of Syracuse football season. What is your final regular season win prediction for Syracuse football, barring any unforeseen circumstances between now and Tennessee next Saturday? We will not be changing our regular season win prediction for Syracuse football from this moment on. For those that don't know, next Saturday, noon Eastern in Atlanta, Georgia, Syracuse, of course, taking on Tennessee. The Orange coming off a 9-win regular season, 10 wins if you include the Holiday Bowl victory over Washington State. So let's get into it. And the results of your votes. There were about 250 votes on this week's Poll Friday. It was a very close poll, but here is the order in which they finished. In first place, 7 wins. In second place, 8+ wins. So a lot of you are pretty optimistic about Syracuse potentially matching last year's win total. In third place, most of you still believe that Syracuse is going to make a bowl at 6 wins. That's fine. We'll take a bowl appearance for the 4th consecutive season. And in last place, thankfully, you guys seem to be pretty optimistic, a missed bowl. And let's be honest, whether it's 0 wins or 5 wins, a missed bowl is a missed bowl. Here are my thoughts on this. I think we know by now the difficulty of Syracuse's schedule. They're facing 4 teams last year, or they're facing 4 teams this year who were in last year's college football playoff. And all those teams should be pretty good again this season. Maybe not college football playoff good, but still pretty good. You got Tennessee, Clemson, SMU, Notre Dame. They're also facing more tough opponents. You got Miami on the schedule. You got Georgia Tech on the schedule. Yeah, Syracuse beat those teams last year, but those teams, once again, should be pretty good this season. Syracuse lost to Boston College and Pitt last year. They are also on the schedule once again for Syracuse. And if I'm leaving a team out, it's not disrespect. Rather, it's we do not have all day here on Locked On Syracuse to talk about every single game right now. But the mindset for this season is very, very simple. Good teams find a way to beat other good teams. Meaning, if Syracuse football truly is a good team, which, by the way, I do think they are a good team, then they will find a way to at least make a bowl, even with a tough schedule, because they are a good team. It is not an excuse for Syracuse to miss a bowl this season just because, the schedule's hard. That's not an excuse. You're a good team, Syracuse. You are allowed to go out on the field and beat other good opponents. Now, the schedule, it may limit Syracuse's ceiling to an extent. Maybe it hurts them in trying to match last year's 9-win regular season total because you have a little bit tougher opponents this upcoming season. Maybe you don't make the college football playoff and take that next step, or maybe you don't make the ACC title game. But again, good teams find a way to beat other good teams. So with that being said, I am picking Syracuse to go 7-5 this season, which for the most part, you believe as well. What are your thoughts on Syracuse's season this year? Comment in the comments section below your regular season win prediction for Syracuse football. Now coming up, how does Syracuse reach that 7-win threshold? Stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. And one bet that I'm eyeing over on FanDuel, I think he's the favorite, Ashton Jeanty to be the offensive rookie of the year. And think about it this way, right? He's with the Raiders. How many weapons are really on the Las Vegas Raiders? I guess you have Jacoby Myers, obviously Brock Bowers, but for the most part, Ashton Jeanty is going to see a pretty big workload over at running back for them. And also, keep in mind their head coach, Pete Carroll. He likes to run the football. We've seen plenty of running backs with probably less talent than Ashton Jeanty thrive with Pete Carroll. You want to get in on the action? Well, you can visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you all the question, what's your final regular season win prediction for Syracuse football? You all voted, and for the most part, you believe 7-5, and I am in agreement with you all on that. Now the question becomes, where do the 7 wins come from for Syracuse football? Obviously a tough schedule, which we just talked about in the last segment. Where do they get 7 wins? I think there are only 2 on the schedule for Syracuse at this very moment that you look at and say, that is going to be extremely, extremely difficult to win, to the point where if an upset does occur, it would be one of the bigger upsets in all of college football this season. The games that I am referring to, at Clemson, which is the 4th game of the year, and at Notre Dame, which is the second last game of the regular season for Syracuse. Clemson at this very moment is ranked 4th in the country. Notre Dame is sitting at 6th in the country. And I'm not naive. Okay, I understand that upsets can happen. We actually saw last year with Notre Dame at home, they lost to Northern Illinois. It happens. It's college football. Sometimes it doesn't go how we expect. But if we're trying to be objective here, as Syracuse fans, I'm a Syracuse fan, Syracuse alum, at Notre Dame, at Clemson, going to be very, very difficult for Syracuse to win those games. But no worries. There are still 10 more on the schedule. Can we find 7 wins of that 10? And we can start categorizing them now. Easy win right here. You got Colgate at home in week 3. That is your slam dunk FCS opponent. Everyone gets to feel good about themselves, hopefully. That's the game where you want Syracuse to honestly win it 51-7. Right? If you're paying for a ticket to go to the JMA Wireless Dome and you want to be assured that you are going to see a Syracuse victory, that's the game that you should go to. That's an FCS opponent. Syracuse should dominate Colgate from start to finish, and we should all be feeling happy about ourselves after a nice week 3 victory here on Locked On Syracuse postgame. So that's your easy win. All right, 1 win right there for Syracuse. The game before that, which is week 2, is UConn at home. And I would say that this game is one that Syracuse better win. They are most likely going to be a pretty big favorite over UConn. But UConn, to their credit, they are a better program than what they were maybe 5 years ago. UConn actually had a pretty decent season last year. And against Syracuse, they actually kept that game to a one-score battle. I think the score is a little bit deceiving on that. Syracuse controlled it from start to finish, but still, it was a one-score game. And if you think about it this way, Syracuse can control the game this year from start to finish, but it was one score last year. They could lose. It can happen. It's college football. Weird stuff. And if Syracuse were to lose to UConn, there's bigger problems with the team, at least in 2025. So Syracuse, they better beat UConn at home. If they don't beat UConn at home, they're not making a bowl. It's as simple as that. You beat UConn at home, you get your second win of the season right there because you're going to beat Colgate. That is your layup game. So now you're 2-2. Now we need to find 5 more wins on the schedule. And there are 4 toss-up games, in my opinion, for Syracuse, and they're all home games. You got Duke at home. They're paying Darian Mensah, the quarterback, a whole lot of money, the most amount of money in all of college football over there, at least reportedly. Pitt was a team on a Thursday night last year which effectively ended Syracuse's season. But they're a beatable team. We saw that last year, how they got off to a 7-0 start and then lost 5 consecutive games. They're a good team. They're a respectable team in the ACC. Syracuse at home, it's probably a toss-up game. North Carolina, very difficult team to gauge this season. I got to be honest with you on this one. I've been saying it pretty much all off season long. I could see North Carolina with Bill Belichick as their head coach going 10-2 and being one of the great success stories in all of college football this year. I could also see that being a complete train wreck and they go 2-10. So you don't really know what to make of North Carolina. So for now, let's just say that's a toss-up game for Syracuse, okay? Boston College. That's the final game of the regular season for Syracuse. You would like me to probably say that that is a quote-unquote easy game for Syracuse, but A, they are in the ACC, and no ACC opponent should be taken lightly. And B, Boston College has beaten Syracuse the last 2 years. In fact, last year, that was an ugly game by Syracuse. They could not stop the run. That was the same game Thomas Castellanos got benched in. And Boston College still beat Syracuse. So the Orange, they're not going to face Thomas Castellanos this year. But Boston College at home, I'm not going to sit here and say you better win that game. That's a toss-up game right now for Syracuse, in my opinion. In order for Syracuse to at least make a bowl and perhaps reach the 7-win prediction that I have, and for the most part you have for Syracuse this season, of those 4 games I mentioned, they got to go 3-1. They don't have to go undefeated. If they go undefeated, they're going to go bowling easily because beat UConn, beat Colgate, win those 4 games. You have 6 wins. You're a bowl team. But let's say 3-1. Okay, so you pick the 3 wins. You pick the 1 loss. That's where I'm at with that. 3-1 against Duke, Pitt, North Carolina, Boston College at home. Now, finally, you got some possible upsets on the schedule. These are all road or neutral site games. These are games I look at for Syracuse right now. I say they're most likely going to be an underdog in them, in all of them, but they're not quite Clemson. They're not quite Notre Dame. You could see a world where if Syracuse is a good team, they can beat other good teams. You got Tennessee neutral site. That's the opening game of the season. We'll talk about that more next week on the podcast. You got SMU. They are ranked 16th in the country right now. Are we sure that SMU is going to replicate or come close to replicating what they did last year? I'm not going to sit here and say SMU is a bad team or anything like that. They're certainly a pretty good team, at least on paper. But are you sure they're not going to have any hiccups in the regular season? Because last year, they really didn't. They basically did exactly what they needed to do to make the college football playoff. They had 1 loss early in the season against BYU, and they did not lose again until the ACC championship game against Clemson. And then, of course, they lost to Penn State in the first round of the college football playoff. Is that going to happen this year again for SMU? Good team, but I don't think they're going 11-1 in the regular season this season. Then you got to add Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech. A lot of people are projecting them to take a big step forward this year. There are some people out there saying they're a dark horse to maybe make the college football playoff. Now, early in the offseason, you want to call it May, you want to call it June, I was all in on Georgia Tech having a big year, and then everyone else started getting in on Georgia Tech, so I had to start rethinking a little. And again, it's kind of like SMU. I'm not trying to sit here and say I'm disrespecting Georgia Tech, but what I'm saying is you can beat that team on the road. At least right now, I think they could. I think it's a possible upset. You with me or not? Comment in the comment section below. And then finally, you got at Miami. They're ranked 10th in the country. Miami every year has a ton of talent. Despite what Mario Cristobal may or may not say about when he arrived at Miami, they are always near or at the top of the recruiting class rankings. Always a lot of talent. But something is just off with Miami every year. Is that going to be the case when Syracuse goes down to South Florida to play him? Who knows? The point being is that with Tennessee, at SMU, at Georgia Tech, at Miami, can Syracuse manage to find 2 wins of that group of 4 I just mentioned? Well, it goes back to the overall theme of the show. If Syracuse is truly a good team, they will find a way to beat good teams. So they should find a way to get 2 wins out of those 4. Or if they don't get 2 wins of those 4, maybe they only go 1-3, but they managed to beat all of Duke, Pitt, North Carolina, and Boston College. So overall, I'm going 7-5 for Syracuse. They beat UConn. They beat Colgate. That's 2 wins right there. They go 3-1 in the toss-up games, and they managed to find 2 upsets. Comment your win prediction for Syracuse in the comments section below. As far as what's coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the near future, tomorrow I don't anticipate there being a podcast, but no worries. We got plenty of podcasts coming your way here on Locked On Syracuse. On Sunday, we got a podcast with Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House. And then in the works, a Locked On crossover podcast with Locked On Vols host Eric Kane. So that's what's coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the near future. And thank you for making us your first listen today. And for your second listen, you have a few options. You can check out Locked On Portal Show with football recruiting expert Brian Smith. You can also check out Locked On ACC with Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. And finally, you want a more broad picture of college football in general? Well, you're in luck. Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. You can find all those podcasts on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse, and I will see you all again soon.